All right, guys, this is going to be just some of the introductory passages of Slavonic Enoch, also known as Second Enoch. Most of this, as far as the layering and the structure of the journey into the heavens is laid out, can be corroborated in canonical sources using nothing more than deductive reasoning and logic. We're going to look at this, and I think as we continue, it's going to be glaringly obvious why these texts, I'm not just talking about Slavonic Enoch, but First Enoch and some of the testimony within the Dead Sea Scrolls are not widely circulated as they should be, and yet were warmly embraced in the apostolic writings in first century and before that, of course. So we're going to look at the book of Enoch, the second book of Enoch, and it's also called Slavonic Enoch. It says, Enoch's encounter with the two angels of God. Now, let everything be established in the mouth of two or three witnesses by the proper testimony of two or three witnesses. This is eyewitness testimony from Enoch. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that those who reject the proper testimony, proper eyewitness testimony, will die the death of the uncircumcised, of course, wandering around in circles in the desert outside of the promise, and based upon that testimony of two witnesses. So this is eyewitness testimony, folks. In the very near future, think it not odd that Jerusalem below is the location where the two witnesses, proper testimony being upheld, where two witnesses will be, of course, slain, and the world is excited about it. So, there was a wise man and a great artificer, and the Lord conceived love for him, and received him, that he should behold the uppermost dwellings, and be an eyewitness of the wise and great and inconceivable and immutable realm of God Almighty, of the very wonderful and glorious and bright and many-eyed station of the Lord's servants, and of the inaccessible throne of the Lord. I thought it worth mentioning that, in case I forget later, that when Enoch was taken into the heavens, he was seated at he got to sit at the left hand of the Father, where Gabriel was, and he did not see anyone at the time yet at the right hand. Wasn't time yet. Messiah had not yet been born, sown into the earth, and raised incorruptible, and placed at the right hand of the Father. So again, in corroboration with the eyewitness testimony of Enoch, Enoch talks a little bit from his perspective, and as we progress through this rather long process we're going through Slavonic Enoch, we're going to just see some things that are nothing short of groundbreaking. The world is going to be taken aback, surprised, fearful things that are going to come up on the earth, and they are largely unprepared for those things, a result of not properly receiving eyewitness testimony. It's a serious matter. Everything else is hearsay. It doesn't matter what a ministry says or what someone says or the preacher says. We're called to evaluate the words and corroborate them with the inward witness of the Spirit of our Father in heaven, and of course line upon line, precept upon precept. He was shown the inaccessible throne of the Lord. It goes into much detail, and we'll be getting into that later. And of the degrees and manifestations of the incorporeal hosts, and of the ineffable ministration of the multitude of the elements, and of the various apparition and inexpressible singing of the host of cherubim, and of the boundless light. At that time, he said, when my 165th year was completed, so this is, he's taken up at the 165th year, I begat my son Methuselah. So after this too, it says I lived 200 years and completed of all the years of my life 365 years. Isn't this something? Now, that's how many days there are, 365 and a quarter days in the solar circuit. On the first day of the month, I was in my house alone and was resting on my bed and slept. And when I was asleep, great distress came into my heart, and I was weeping with my eyes in sleep. And I could not understand what this distress was, or what would happen to me. Now, it's important before we progress, before we even get here to scoff and mock on earth, thousands of years later, the matter was already settled by two angels and Enoch. Let everything be established by multiple witnesses, 2 or 3 witnesses even, before we even got here to scoff and mock and point a finger and speak out of our ignorance. It's a serious matter. It's a pandemic. And there appeared to me 2 men exceeding big, exceeding large, so that I never saw such on earth. Their faces were shining like the sun. Their eyes, too, were like a burning light, and from their lips was fire coming forth, with clothing and singing of various kinds in appearance of purple, their wings brighter than gold, their hands whiter than snow. We made it through 1 page without one single contradiction. All of these matters I stated previously can be corroborated inside of your canon. Ooh, scary. Don't go out of the canon. Preacher says that that's not good for us. The Father did not give you a spirit of fear, but one of power, love, and a discerning mind. If your inclination is fear, there's a pretty good chance that you need to be sniffing around. There's probably a rat. So these beings were standing at the head of my bed and began to call me by my name. And I arose from my sleep, and I saw clearly those 2 men standing in front of me. And I saluted them and was seized with fear. Same thing happened to Daniel. Same thing happened to John. Same experience. And the appearance of my face was changed from terror, and those men said to me, "Have courage, Enoch. Do not fear. The eternal God has sent us to you. You shall today ascend with us into heaven, and you shall tell your sons and all your household all that they should do without you on earth in your house, and let no one seek you till the Lord returns you to them." So now, notice what happens. They comforted him, and they told him that they were sent by one greater than themselves. Now, it says that he was going to be ascending with them into heaven. Now, do know that the scriptures elsewhere in the canon says that no man ascendeth into the heavens but he who came from the heavens, or came from the Father and came from God. So what we're supposed to glean from that, since there clearly have been many people who have ascended into the heavens, is that everyone came from God. That is the logical deduction. And that, should that idea become preposterous in the apostolic writings as it did, just know you're dealing with carnal people who do not have their head on straight and don't understand that light and life and all that would be came from our Father in heaven, who is the Father of lights, and in whom there is no darkness. Tell your sons and all your household all that they shall do without you on the earth in your house, and let no one seek you till the Lord return you to them. And I made haste to obey them, and went out from my house, and made to the doors as it was ordered to me, and summoned my sons Methuselah and Regem and Gidad, and made known to them all the marvels that those men had told me. That's the end of chapter 1 of Slavonic Enoch.